This is the LeMond Dutch. It's a super lightweight city cruiser that offers a ton of premium features for a seriously unique experience. So what all does it bring to the table? Let's take a ride and find out. Hey fellow e-bikers, I am John with Electric Bike Report. First things first, we are always talking about super cool e-bikes like this, and we're even going to be doing some more e-bike giveaways, so be sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell icon down below so you can be the first to know when we announce those. So what makes the LeMond Dutch so unique? First of all, the entire structure of the bike, including the frame, fork, monocoque stem and handlebar, and even the seat post, is all made from carbon fiber. So when the bike is all assembled, it weighs a grand total of about 30 pounds. That makes it super easy to lift and move around. It gives the Dutch really great handling and acceleration, and it also means there are no welds. So aside from the parts that need to move, the whole bike is completely seamless and smooth. I don't need to tell you how good this thing looks, just take a closer look, I'll give you a few seconds. Another huge feature here is just the overall comfort level with the Dutch styling that includes a very relaxed, upright riding position, as well as some very ergonomic handlebars. This is without a doubt an incredibly comfortable bike to ride. For me, it just felt completely natural in terms of seating and hand placement. And LeMond offers 3 frame sizes in your choice of pink, light blue, or black, so you can get the right fit, but also the right style to match you. The third highlight that I want to share before we talk about all the bike specs and components is the fact that it incorporates a lot of really high-end technology while also giving you more of a traditional cycling experience. This bike uses the Mahle X35 drive system that includes a 250 watt rear hub motor, a fully internal and non-removable 36 volt 250 watt hour battery, as well as a single button interface on the down tube. This system has enough power to help you out and make the ride really easy, but it doesn't take over completely, so you still feel like you're riding a bike. Outside of that, there are a ton of really great components, including a Shimano group set that includes an 11-speed GRX drivetrain with a 40-tooth chainring and an 11 to 40-tooth cassette, as well as hydraulic disc brakes with 2 piston calipers paired with 160mm ICE technology rotors. The tires here are 700C by 38mm, made by Panaracer. These are the Gravel King Slick Plus model. The Dutch also comes with a Cell Royal Essenza Plus saddle, and we have a few optional accessories on our test bike, including the kickstand, as well as the custom carbon fiber fenders. There are custom lights included on the bike. I really love the tail lights, which are integrated into the carbon fiber seat stays, and you really can't beat the look of the headlight. That's one part of the single piece or monocoque stem and handlebar component. The rest of the cockpit is really clean. There's some really lightweight foam grips on the handlebars, and then nothing else comes standard on the bike outside of the brake levers and the shifter. We have another optional upgrade item on our bike, which is the Shimano Di2 electronic shifting system, which I'll go into a little bit more detail on later. So that does include a tiny readout to indicate your current gear, but that is the full component package here. There is no display, but there is a lot of information that's communicated through the interface button on the down tube. By holding the button, you can turn the bike on and off. With pressing and holding the button, you can activate or deactivate the lights. And then by pressing it and then pressing once more or multiple times, it's also used to swap through the 3 pedal assist settings. The color of the ring around the button shows PAS setting, with white meaning no assistance, green being eco mode, orange being tour mode, and red being turbo mode. And then once you have that selected, it'll default to showing you the battery charge level, which moves through white, green, orange, red, flashing red, and pink as your battery gets closer to running out of juice. There's definitely a bit of a learning curve when it comes to using the Dutch, and then a couple of apps that you'll want to take a look at as well. The X35 drive system pairs with the Mahle My Smart Bike app, which shows ride data, including the battery percentage, as well as estimated range, but also shows you how many miles you've ridden in each pedal assist setting. One of the coolest things about that is the motor map feature in the e-bike options menu, which lets you tweak the amount of motor power in each of those PAS settings. And then the Mahle app also pairs with Strava, so you can track your rides. If you go for the upgrade to the Di2 electronic shifting system, there's another app for that called eTube, which lets you change the speed of your shifting, or allows you to limit the number of gears that you can go through if you hold the shift levers instead of pressing them. I'll explain more about that in our test sections a little bit later on. I do want to mention quickly that the Dutch is not currently UL certified, but our contact at LeMond said that they're in the preliminary stages of the certification process, so hopefully that's something that we will see soon. But anyway, let's jump into our test results and see how the Dutch performed. We tested the hydraulic brake system on the LeMond Dutch by pedaling it up to the Class 1 max speed of 20 miles per hour, hitting the brakes, and then measuring how far the bike took to stop. The data from one attempt isn't all that useful, so we did this a total of 3 times and then calculated an average stopping distance from all 3 test results. The Dutch gave us an average of 22 feet 5 inches, which lines up really well with the data we have from all of the other cruiser style and city e-bikes we've tested. The average from those categories is 22 feet 6 inches, so technically the Dutch did a little better, and we noticed that it felt really stable when it was coming to a stop. The back wheel locked up a little bit for me when I hit the brakes hard, but that's no surprise with the slick tires, and I was pleasantly surprised by how straight the bike stayed as it slowed. We do this test to make sure brakes are safe and effective, and I wouldn't have expected anything less from the Shimano system here, but it's really nice to know that it lived up to those expectations. I measured my speeds on the LeMond Dutch in each of its pedal assist settings, so let's go take a ride and see how the bike performed. Okay, so we are here on the LeMond Dutch to do a speed test, and pedaling pretty comfortably right now, about let's say about 12.5 miles per hour. Let's go up to eco mode, or pedal assist 1, where I'm getting, just a little bit of help from the motor, but I can shift up a gear here and get moving a little faster. 2 gears actually. So here going pretty comfortably, kind of right around 15 miles per hour. Looks like a little fluctuation there, but yeah, about 15. Let's go up to the second pedal assist setting. Getting a pretty nice boost here. Feels very comfortable, very easy to pedal. So here, getting up fairly fast speeds actually. It looks like around 17 miles per hour. So let's say 17, and well, now we're up to 18. Let's say 17 and a half on that one. I think that's a pretty decent average based on the numbers we're seeing. And then up to pedal assist 3, where it doesn't feel a whole lot different. Feel a little bit of extra power there. And I am in the bike's top gear now. So it looks like we're gonna go kind of around 19 miles per hour here, 19 and a half. Again, sort of fluctuating here, but we'll say about 19 on average. So that's our speed test on the LeMond Dutch. So the first thing that jumped out here was really just how easy this bike was to pedal without the motor. I said earlier how it feels a lot like an analog bike with the motor on, and that is still true without the boost that the motor provides. Most e-bikes I've tested felt pretty darn heavy without the motor, but here I was able to pedal up to a pretty impressive 13.1 miles per hour. Since there were only 3 PAS settings, the speed test here was pretty simple. I actually found the Dutch a little tough to measure in this test just because of how quickly it changed speeds in response to really small differences in my pedal pressure. But with a moderate level of effort, I measured top speeds of 15.5 miles per hour in eco mode, 18.2 miles per hour in tour mode, and 19.4 miles per hour in turbo mode, with my average speeds just running a little bit slower. Looking at the distribution of speed and power between settings, there were very even increases going from no motor assistance up to tour mode. There wasn't as large a difference between tour and turbo mode, which I mentioned was noticeable by feel, but it also showed up visibly in our data as well. Overall, we're very happy with this distribution, even with turbo mode feeling a little less powerful than expected. I was also really pleased with the fact that there are just 3 PAS settings here, which makes operating the bike very straightforward and easy. At least in my mind, eco mode is best if you want a bit more of a workout. Tour mode will get you where you need to go pretty fast while still conserving some battery power, and turbo mode will give you a little extra help for climbing hills. The Dutch performed really well in our range test, although on paper it may not seem that way initially. LeMond advertises a range of 40 to 70 miles with the bike, and our results were about half of that, but based on the bike's specs and all the data we've gathered with similar bikes, our results lined up really well with our expectations and maybe even exceeded them a little bit. We measured between 17.5 and 41.9 miles when we tested the bike in eco and turbo modes, so tour mode should fall somewhere in the middle there. Bottom line, that is a really practical amount of range for a bike with a 250 watt motor and a 250 watt hour battery. And for those who might want a little bit more distance, LeMond does sell an external range extender battery that adds an extra 208 watt hours. But based on the specs of the motor and battery, as well as the results of our speed test, we expected our test in turbo mode to give us around 19 miles with about an hour on the bike. This is right in line with what we ended up with, considering that we have quite a few hills on our test course that ate up a little extra charge. And in eco mode, we expected right around 40 miles over the course of 2.5 hours, but we did a little better with the distance, and we actually had an extra hour on the bike. So in most cases, riders should expect between 1 and 3.5 hours on a single charge. We tested the Dutch at our infamous hill test location called Hellhole Trail, and I'm gonna pass you off to Justin to see how the bike did there.
All right, so here we're on the LeMond with that rear hub Mahle motor. It's an extremely lightweight bike. So even though it's a rear hub, definitely feeling much more like a mid-drive. We'll see how we'll do up here. So there's no throttle, so only pedal test. Through this first roundabout, or this first hill, dropping down to about 7. And so yeah, so it does feel more like a mid-drive, so I've got to push a little bit more. It's definitely not going to just throttle you up a hill, but I can feel the power. And I'm taking it somewhat easy. But yeah, I'm going to get a little bit of workout climbing the hill on this one today. So the motor is pretty quiet, incredibly quiet actually. As I go through this next section, I'll let you listen to it and you'll be able to kind of get a sense of what it sounds like for yourself. So you can see really quiet. Got down to about 4 or 5 miles an hour. Shifted down to about third gear. Love the shifting. Even uphill, it just shifts incredibly smooth. That Shimano Di2. I like the feel of the bike climbing. Its upright position is very comfortable. And, you know, without the motor, I don't think I'd be able to get up this hill in this kind of seated position. But yeah, you're gonna have to use a little bit of effort. You can tell with me talking, a little more out of breath than normal. Could have pushed it harder, could have gone faster. But again, I try to find that nice balance in between. So yeah, let's see what the results are.
So as you could see, Justin had to work a little bit when climbing the hill, but that's about what we expected based on the 250 watt motor. It definitely makes a difference, but this is a bike that does require some pedaling, and that allows it to maintain the feel of a non-electric bike. We measured a time of 2 minutes and 14 seconds from start to finish, and Justin kept an average speed of 8.1 miles per hour. That's fairly slow when looking at our data for similar bikes, but most of those other ones had a bit more of an aerodynamic riding position, so we weren't surprised to see that the Dutch ended up a little behind the rest. Considering that this bike just has a very casual feel, we wouldn't mind seeing a bit more torque from the motor to give riders a little extra help, but overall we're pretty satisfied with what we experienced here. Hellhole is not a path that you'd want to pedal up without a motor. Trust me, I've tried, so the Dutch does its job by helping you even if it does require a little bit of work. The ride quality of the Dutch was really something special, so let's take the bike out for a spin so you can see what the ride is like, and then I'll meet you back here again shortly. Okay, so we are here on the LeMond Dutch to show you what it's like to ride the bike. Now this is a lightweight city cruiser with, well, Dutch styling that, you know, gives you a very comfortable, very enjoyable upright riding position. There are 3 frame sizes here, and that's really important because there's not a lot of adjustment on this bike. You get some in the seat post, but with the single piece or monocoque stem and handlebar component here, there's no adjustability with handlebar height or reach there, so it's important to find the frame size that fits you. But you know, regardless of frame size, very responsive handling, very good traction on the tires. Those are 700C by 38 millimeter, made by Panaracer. They are the Gravel King series, and you know, fairly minimal tread, but it does stick to the pavement very well. There's no suspension on the bike, but honestly I feel like the carbon fiber frame kind of helps to absorb a little bit of the bumps if you're riding over some rough spots. But then let's talk a little bit about that Mahle X35 motor, the 250 watt rear hub that uses a cadence sensor, but doesn't necessarily feel a lot like it. Let's see, after we get by the traffic here, I'm gonna sort of pause my pedaling and coast, and hopefully you can listen to the motor and hear it engage when I turn my feet, which is gonna be now. So right there, you know, takes about a second to engage, but the re-engagement is actually incredibly fast. It almost feels like a torque sensor, but it's not. But you know, if you're actually up to speed and you're coasting and you move the pedals again, you know, it just engages right away. It's a very pleasant ride feel all around with this bike. Let's jump back to the studio and talk about it. So I mentioned that the Dutch has 3 frame sizes. The small fits those from 5'2" to 5'6". The medium that we have here is made for riders between 5'5" and 5'11", and the large can accommodate riders from 5'10" up to 6'5". I'm 5'11", so I'm on the top end of the range for the medium frame, and I honestly felt like it had a perfect fit. There's a really unique ride feel that comes with the carbon fiber frame here. I thought the bike felt really light and airy, and maybe a little more energetic than most of the heavier e-bikes I've tested. Even though there was a rigid frame with no suspension, I felt like bumps were a little less jarring than on an aluminum frame, so the ride was just really comfortable overall. The electronic components here are some of the big contributing factors to the ride quality, and while I do like the simplicity of the single button interface on the down tube, I found it a little tough to adjust on the fly. The bike's handling is pretty sensitive, so I didn't really like having to take a hand off the bar and my eyes off the road to make sure I was adjusting things properly, so I definitely recommend picking up the optional iWalk Trio remote, which adds a button panel to the handlebars to make the process a bit safer and easier. Mahle also makes a wireless display called the Pulsar 1 that is compatible with the X35 drive system here, but this is not something that LeMond currently sells through their website, and I'd like to see the option for that as well. I like that they do have the option to swap out the top bolt on the stem for a Garmin phone mount, but that requires a special phone case, and I think it just makes sense to offer the display that Mahle makes. But I have to say, all of our testers really liked the optional Di2 electronic shifting system that came on our test bike. It's something that usually fits with more performance-oriented bikes, but here it just kind of bumps up the quality of the ride. You saw in our hill test that it shifted really smoothly even when going up a steep hill, like super smoothly, and it has some maintenance benefits as well. Since there are no internal cables running through the bike, there really isn't any maintenance once you get it dialed in. And yeah, you have to make sure the system is charged, but we didn't see the battery bar on the little readout drop at all, even after all of our testing. All in all, the Dutch rides as nicely as it looks, and I've got to give this thing 2 very solid thumbs up. Every one of our testers who rode the Dutch found it very impressive and very enjoyable to ride. This is a bike made for those who want a premium experience, and it absolutely delivers a top-notch feel that's wrapped up in a really pretty package. It's a great bike for casual rides, and it can be a great commuter as well, and I think it's gonna turn heads no matter what you use it for. This bike did a really solid job in all of our tests when looking at it for what it is. It has a nice distribution of speed and power for a relaxed and casual ride. It has good stopping power. It gave us really solid range for its specs, and while it's not going to do all the work for you when it comes to climbing hills, that's also part of the beauty of the ride here. The Dutch feels like a regular bike, just better, and that's a really awesome thing. The minor elements of critique that we have are easily solved by adding some of the optional accessories. You can add the iWalk Trio remote for the handlebars when making a purchase through the LeMond website, which we will leave a link to in the video description down below. But at least for now, you will need to find the Pulsar 1 display elsewhere. And if you're really looking for a top-notch feel, that Shimano Di2 system is an awesome upgrade that we think you'll enjoy just as much as we did. If you want to see for yourself how great the Dutch is to ride, please do use the link in the video description to help support our channel. It doesn't cost anything extra, but it lets us know that you found this review helpful. And if you want to keep your eyes out for more e-bike reviews, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you like reading, please also check out our written review in the video description as well. That's all for today. Again, I'm John with Electric Bike Report, and this is the LeMond Dutch.